Daniel prayed, and God answered on the very first day. But something in the invisible world prevented the angel from arriving for 21 days. In the 3rd year of King Cyrus of Persia, there lived an old man whose knees no longer bent easily, yet who still bent them every day toward the lost city of Jerusalem. His name was Daniel, and we who served him in those final years of exile remember him well. He was a man whom kings could not break, whom lions could not devour, whom dreams could not silence. And yet, even he was made to wait. Even he was made to wonder if heaven still listened. It began upon the bank of the great river, the one that wound through that brown and ancient land, where the reeds grew tall and the water moved slowly beneath a brass-colored sky. Daniel had received a vision, and the vision had troubled him deeply. He would not eat the rich food set before him. He would not drink the spiced wine of the Persian table. He refused even the oil that men in those lands rubbed upon their skin to keep their bodies from cracking in the dry winds. For 3 full weeks, he ate only plain bread, drank only water, and laid his forehead against the dust like a man waiting for an answer he was not sure would come. We watched him grow thinner. We watched the hollows beneath his eyes deepen until they looked like wells of shadow. We brought him cushions, and he would not use them. We brought him cloaks against the cold of the desert night, and he laid them aside. He prayed in whispers, and then in silence, and then in tears that fell without sound onto the stones beneath his face. And the heavens above him gave no sign, no thunder, no light, no voice, only the same brass sky, the same patient river, the same wind that smelled of salt and dust, and the breath of empires that had grown old around him. What we did not know then, what no human eye in any palace or temple or tent could have seen, was that on the very first day Daniel set his heart to seek understanding, his prayer had already been heard. The answer had already been sent. A messenger had already been dispatched from a place beyond the stars, from the courts of the one who does not slumber. He had been sent in the very moment Daniel's first whispered word touched the air. The reply was already coming down through the veil that separates what we see from what is. But the messenger did not arrive. Day after day passed, and Daniel waited. Day after day, the bread grew harder in his mouth and the water more bitter on his tongue. Day after day, he wondered if his sins had stopped the ears of heaven. He wondered if his people's long exile had at last filled the cup of God's patience. He wondered if the silence above him was the silence of a father who had turned away. And all the while, far above the dust and the reeds and the slow brown river, something was happening that the prophets had only hinted at, that the songs of David had only whispered about in their darker verses. There was a war. There was a war that none of us could see. For there are things in this world, beings older than empires, that move beneath the thrones of kings and shape the rise and fall of nations. There are powers that do not bleed and do not die in the way that men die. There are crowns above the crowns of men. The men of Persia worshipped their own gods. They burned their fires upon stone altars. They built their temples high upon the hills. And behind those temples, behind those crowns and those armies, there was a spirit, a prince, not a man of flesh, but something that wore the empire of Persia like a cloak, that drew its strength from the oaths and the blood and the worship of millions. And when the messenger of the Most High came down through the spheres to bring Daniel his answer, this prince rose up to stop him. We who tell this story tremble even now to speak of it, for we did not see it with our eyes. We saw only an old man wasting away beside a river. But heaven itself has told us, through the lips of the messenger when at last he arrived, that there was a battle in that high place. A battle that lasted 21 days. A battle in which the prince of Persia, this dark and terrible thing, stood against the angel of the Lord and held him. Held him, as one wrestler holds another, as one army holds a city. For 3 full weeks, the messenger could not pass. Try to understand what this means. Try to feel it as Daniel felt it, kneeling beside his river, his ribs showing through his robe, his lips cracked and his eyes burning. The God who made the seas had spoken. The God who counts the stars had answered. And still the answer did not come. Because between the throne of glory and the prophet kneeling in the dust, there was a thing so strong that it could delay the very messengers of light. Who can stand against the will of the Almighty? No one. The will of God is unbreakable. The purpose of God is unstoppable. But his messengers, his sent ones, his mighty servants who fly between the worlds with sword and scroll in hand, even they may meet resistance. Even they may be slowed. Even they may be made to fight, blade against blade, light against shadow, in places where the dust of our world has never settled. And so the angel fought. We are told he fought alone. For 20 days, alone. The prince of Persia struck and struck again, and the messenger struck back, and the air between them, which is not air at all but something finer, rang with blows that no ear of man has ever heard. Around them moved the powers of the kingdoms of the earth, the unseen patrons of every throne, the spirits that drink the prayers of nations and the smoke of their sacrifices. The messenger of the Lord was as one warrior facing 10,000 enemies. Down below, Daniel did not eat. He did not stop. He did not turn his face away from the place where prayer rises. He did not know what he was holding open with his fasting. He did not know that every word from his weary lips was a thread of fire reaching into that high place, that every tear was joining the battle in a way that his earthly eyes could not measure. His weakness was his strength. His hunger was his sword. He could not lift a blade, but he could lift a cry, and that cry was reaching the captain of the host. On the 21st day, when the messenger could fight no more, when the bond that held him seemed about to overcome him, another came. Michael, the great prince, the one who stands for the children of Israel, the chief of the heavenly captains, whose name itself is a question that is also a banner. Who is like God? He came down into that high place, and where Michael set his foot, the prince of Persia could not stand. The bond broke. The way opened. The messenger, weary and shining, came at last down through the trembling air to the bank of a slow brown river, where an old man knelt with his face in the dust. Daniel saw him. And though Daniel had seen visions before, though Daniel had stood before kings and read the writing on palace walls, this was different. Those of us who were near him say his face changed in that instant. The color left it. His knees gave way. He fell as one falls into a great sleep, and the men who stood beside him fled in terror, though they could see nothing themselves, only feel the trembling of the ground and the cold wind that did not blow from any direction known. The messenger touched him, once and then again. He lifted him to his hands and knees, and then to his feet, and his words were gentle, but they carried within them the weight of all that had passed in the unseen places. Fear not, Daniel. From the first day that you set your heart to understand, your words were heard. From the first day. But the prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me 21 days. And lo, Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me. There it is. The thing that should make any heart that hears it grow still and cold and reverent. The first day. From the first day, his prayer was heard. From the first day, the answer was coming. 20 days of fasting, 20 days of weeping, 20 days of wondering if God had forgotten. And the truth was that God had never paused, never turned, never delayed. The delay was not in heaven. The delay was in the war. And here is what the messenger told us, through Daniel, before he departed back to that high battle that was not yet finished. There would be more. There would be the prince of Greece, after the prince of Persia. There would be more empires, and behind each empire a power, and against each power the captains of the Lord. The war Daniel had glimpsed for 21 days was not an isolated thing. It was the shape of the world beneath the world. It was the truth behind the rise of every throne and the fall of every crown. So when you bend your knees, and the answer does not come, do not say in your heart that heaven has not heard. Do not say that the silence is the silence of a closed door. There is no closed door. There is, sometimes, a battle. There is, sometimes, a road that must be fought open, sword by sword, between the place where prayer rises and the place where the answer must descend. The messenger left Daniel by the river, and Daniel lived a little longer, and the slow brown water moved on toward the gulf as it always had. The empires of Persia rose higher and then began their slow decline, and behind them, though no man of Persia knew it, a prince of darkness was being pushed back, step by step, by the captains of light. And somewhere, in that high place that is not a place, the messenger and Michael go on fighting still, as they fight in every age, behind every prayer that rises from the dust of this earth. The answer had already been sent. But between Daniel and the promise, there was a war that human eyes could not see. And that war, even now, has not ended.